As Victoria Lours says in her book Church of the Wild, we must leave our familiar to find the truest holy. Get off the path, get into the wilderness to hear and see God. Welcome to Calm in the Chaos Interfaith Center, where wild doesn't have to mean unruly or out of control. Leaving our familiar and getting into the wilderness is a recurrent theme in the movement to finding and building a 21st century relationship with God, however you perceive that term. I could build on Victoria's words and say, we must leave our pews to fully experience the divine. We must commune with the natural world to be enveloped by the mystery of the cosmos. John Muir, one of the Celtic spiritual leaders that I introduce you to in the Celtic spirituality class, hated the word hike. I find myself recoiling from the entries in the Rhodes Scholar catalog that include the word these days. The thought of hiking conjures up an image of a group of people focused ahead of themselves, trudging with measured strides and metered ways, perhaps with walking sticks taller than their own height. And I've done that. I just don't do it much anymore. Nowadays, I might be left behind because I tend to look sideways and up and down a lot. I would be investigating a bug or listening to a tree or rubbing my hand over the texture of a downed log. I would be left behind. Hiking means a pace that I no longer desire to travel. John Muir once told a friend that in the Middle Ages, people went on pilgrimage to the Holy Lands, and as they passed through villages on their way, people asked them where they were going. The answer was à la Sainte Terre, which means literally to the sacred ground or the Holy Land. And so the travelers à la Sainte Terre became known as the Saint-Terreurs or saunterers. I want to saunter. Now, to be sure, there are many times in my week where sauntering is not the order of the day for me or for my family. When the yellow bus is visible on the street, the children should not saunter down their driveways looking at bugs and investigating the grass. And when I must make the journey from one side of the altar to the other by going around behind the congregation, I do not saunter. Each event calls for its own pace of travel. There are times when I saunter through the grocery store, and there are times when I hike up and down those aisles. But when I'm at a park and my pups and I find a new trail, we saunter. We sniff everything. We enjoy the minute details of creation, and then we hike on the way back, mostly so they know the difference between let's go and a free, loose leash that indicates it's okay to check things out. In our spiritual lives, there are times to saunter and times to hike. The older my friends are, the more I see even the spiritual side of life becoming slower. There are fewer urgencies, less critical events that we must, without fail, attend to. My friends are taking in the details, savoring the curly hair on a small dachshund in a lap, noticing exactly how an earring matches a dress, calling attention to the precise ripening of the raspberries on the backyard fence. Maybe as people age, we move into the second half of life, as Father Richard Rohr calls it. He isn't indicating a chronological number when a shift happens. He means the turning of the attention to what really has mattered all along and letting go of some of the details that are not creating the best life for us. A few years back, the word mindfulness was on the lips of those in the spiritual and mental health fields. Mindfulness can become a spiritual practice that is eventually a habit and part of our daily lives. To be mindful is simply to pay attention to not only what we're doing, but also to the feelings attached to the doing. Mindfulness can help us notice the details around us rather than only keeping an eye on the destination. Let me share a poem by Ovi Odiete titled The Poetry of Little Things. It is the poetry of little things that causes the earth to shred and shudder. The poetry of little things that ignites the greatest moments of bliss. A smile from a little child, a chuckle from a stranger, the warmth of a knitted family, the entwining of old friends, the humming from the seashores, the journey of the moonlight, the waves, the traveling waves, the sea, the meandering sea, the earth, the boundless earth, and the sweet song that nature sings. These little things garnered with the greatest love, observed in silence. It is this poetry, the poetry of little things, that elicit the greatest happiness. If you would like to enhance your own mindfulness or spiritual sauntering, I offer 4 steps to try. The steps are from the Positive Psychology Group in the Netherlands, and they're a form of a meditation. First, sit somewhere that you identify as a peaceful place. Could be outdoors or indoors, but your environment should be free of visual and oral distractions. Just sit there and breathe for a while. Does this remind you of a recent God talk that was about 20 minutes a day of just sitting still? Just sit and breathe. No phone, no companion for a discussion. Second, become aware of the breath. Don't try to make it any different from what is natural. Just notice if you're breathing through your nose or your mouth. Are your shoulders moving up and down? Is your belly expanding? Simply be aware of how the breath works in your body. Next, answer the sensory questions. What am I hearing? What am I seeing? What am I tasting? What am I touching? What am I smelling? Take time to evaluate each of your 5 senses. Now check in with your feelings. Are you tense? Are you worried? Calm? Resigned? Busy? Is there a body part that is tingly or numb or tight? Let yourself take some time to check in from head to toe. When you finish checking in physically, there's one more step. How are you relating to the world? Begin with those people in your very close inner circle. Feel the heart connection to those who are dear to you. Send them loving kindness. You may notice a warm sensation emanating from your heart to theirs. Then increase the circle and include friends and family who live farther away or those you haven't seen recently. Allow yourself to send them loving kindness. Then extend your caring to people in your neighborhood, then your country, and then the world. After this spiritual exercise, allow yourself to come back into whatever is your daily routine. This exercise may help you to be a spiritual saunterer. It may also be a wonderful element of self-care during a particularly overwhelming period of your life. I hiked a portion of the Appalachian Trail several decades ago, the portion called the Horseshoe Trail. I hiked the C&O Canal and camped along the Potomac River with forest fires looming around. That's another God talk. I backpacked across many miles of southeastern Pennsylvania, and because of an expected amount of miles to hike each day to reach an overnight destination, I missed much of the diverse and glorious beauty that I was walking through. I desire that beauty now. I need that beauty. I saunter. I saunter. And I invite you to saunter as well. Our prayer today opens with a short prayer from Celtic spirituality author John Philip Newell. Let's pray. In the gift of this new day, in the gift of the present moment, in the gift of time and eternity intertwined, let us be grateful. Let us be attentive. Let us be open to what has never happened before. In the gift of this new day, in the gift of this present moment, in the gift of time and eternity intertwined. Holy Divine, hear our personal prayers of gratitude and concern as we whisper them now. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Blessings on all.